Are we live?
Yep.
Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going to be going over different dinosaur nest discoveries recently, as well as a new species of dromaeosaur. And we are streaming on both Rumble, Kick, and YouTube. So, starting off with Newsweek.com, hundreds of dinosaur eggs discovered, some intact after 72 million years. So, it seems to be this discovery is taking place during the early Maastrichtian stage of the Cretaceous. Question is where?
We've been finding a lot of eggs recently, haven't we?
Um, my oh, Well, when it comes to different species of omnivorous or carnivorous oviraptor, it's over in Mongolia and China, which are distant relatives of the dromaeosaurs or raptor lineage of dinosaurs. They are, however, part of Paravera, which is a lineage of theropod dinosaurs that would later, well, even at that point, give rise to the birds. And I believe the eggs might have been a bit earlier in time or occurred where they were preserved somewhere around 80 to 85 million years ago. So a little past the Campanian stage of the Cretaceous, more of like um, Cambodian or Certonian age. Well, those are definitely well preserved. The other question is what types of dinosaurs made these? A major paleontology discovery in southern France. Well, this is not a place where we tend to hear about different dinosaur egg nest discoveries or just dinosaur nests in general. It's usually in different areas of Mongolia and China, and occasionally Argentina and even Brazil. So this is really good to hear that we're getting in some from Western Europe. Has revealed an unusually dense dinosaur nesting ground containing hundreds of fossilized eggs. The find was announced on Facebook by the Musée Parc des Dinosaures de Misse in the Haralt region, where ongoing excavations on the Misse fossil site have brought to light what the museum's director curator Alan Cabot called an exceptional concentration of eggs. Late Cretaceous, France. I'm going to be guessing this could be a rare species of theropod dinosaur. It might be a certain type of ornithischian. Could be a late Cretaceous sauropod. Many when it comes to this point in the Cretaceous, there are more discoveries of dinosaurs coming in from Central to Eastern Europe, more of like the Hungary and Romania area, especially when more of referring to the Hatzeg Basin. You have different species of dwarf dinosaurs, which still reach a little over a ton, at least when referring to the herbivores. According to the museum, the discovery follows several months of meticulous excavation work, during which teams uncovered several hundred remarkably well preserved dinosaur eggs. That's the same picture from earlier. So, museum officials said the Missis site is now considering the largest dinosaur egg deposit in Europe. So, it wasn't just me. I wasn't familiar with any type of a dinosaur egg site that is this well intact and this large. So this is really amazing to hear. And among the largest fossil nesting grounds worldwide, comparable to sites in Argentina, China, and Mongolia. Okay, so apparently this is an immense discovery, at least when it comes to just the overall size. Alan Cabot said the find reflects nearly 3 decades of work at the site. He explained that he initially surveys areas for eggshell fragments on the surface before carefully digging beneath them. I think that goes for almost every paleontologist, just always analyzing at first what you can see above the ground before, well, tearing it apart. A method that led to the first egg discoveries at Misse nearly 28 years ago. Okay, I don't know specifically where this is occurring in France. So this is quite astonishing considering this was happening, what, back in the 90s? Today we found 100 more, Cabot said, adding that such dense concentrations are extremely rare, as most sites yield only a handful of eggs. Is he referring to other nesting sites over in France or just other areas worldwide? Which, if you're referring to places like North America, dinosaur nests, well, depending on the type of dinosaur, if you're referring to long necked sauropods like Brachiosaurus, Barosaurus, or Diplodocus, they are quite small, or at least fragmentary when it comes to specimens. And it is extremely, actually, I'd say it's almost non existent to find whole intact eggs of long necked sauropod dinosaurs. So early observations suggest the fossilized eggs date back around 72 million years and could offer rare insight into dinosaur reproductive behavior, the environment they lived in, and the species that once inhabited the region. Some of the eggs retain intact internal structures, giving the find considerable scientific value. Okay, let's take a look at certain species that might have inhabited the region at around this time during the Cretaceous. So this is a species of hadrosaur telmatosaurus. So Telmatosaurus. And this dinosaur is specifically renowned from the Hatzeg Basin further east into Europe, so over in the Hungary area. And this animal only reached somewhere around 15 to 6 feet in length, or a little over 5 meters, and probably didn't weigh much more than 1,400 pounds, or a little over 600 kilograms. Well, that's supposed to represent in the background a really, well, it's supposed to represent a Hatzegopteryx, which might have hunted these animals in the island ecosystem, because at this time, much of Europe was just simply a series of islands.
How come we can see right through it?
I think it's just supposed to be a shadow, unless you're talking about the. I don't think you're talking about the Hadrosaur. Yeah, it's a shadow. Um, I mean that's yeah, AI picture is okay, but this is definitely a much older representation. If this is Telmantosaurus, he is wide in this image. I mean, hmm. I'm guessing this photo is probably from the 1960s. It has a bit too much of a robust sort of a neck structure for a Tomatosaurus, and overall, just when it comes to the core of this animal, I'd say he's a bit too stumpy and should be much more elongated, a bit slimmer, especially more slender when it comes to the legs. He's got very bulky calves or shins, it seems. And also, his arms are a bit oddly placed. They should be closer to his overall body, almost like hunched up against it. And the toes are also a bit too separated and, um, I'd say wide as well, and too clawed. And the
Right.
tail should not be directly under his body and, laying against, like, the dirt under the water.
I got another funny one.
Also, his bill is very off. Okay, this looks much more recent. That's not a bad Tilmatosaurus. It is interesting they're having him run on all fours, which is certainly very probable with these different or this type of a hadrosauromorph. So this isn't classified as a true member of Hadrosauridae, which there were a wide variety of different species at this point in the Cretaceous, especially over in different parts of North America and Asia. Hadrosauromorphs were a bit more likely to come upon at this point in the Cretaceous over in Europe, or you could say any point in time in Europe. Well, I guess after the true iguanodontids went extinct, their predecessors, and behind him is a species of dromaeosaur that might have inhabited the Hatzeg Basin. It could be a species named Balor. So this animal, I believe, was somewhere around the size of Dromaeosaurus. Could have been slightly larger. So pushing somewhere around 7 feet in length, or pushing 2.2 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 40 to 70 pounds, or a little over 30 kilograms.
Okay, I have a strange face.
This could be a young Telmatosaurus if
It
we
is
found.
listed on as one, and I don't mean just there. I mean it's from the University of Southampton.
Oh, so I'm not familiar with any discoveries of younger individuals of Telmatosaurus, but it is likely by looking at the adult this that this would be an accurate depiction of how a youngster's facial structure would have looked like. He has quite almost binocular vision to an extent when looking at this depiction, but he probably has a very rough time seeing what's directly in front of him. So much better peripheral or side um, vision instead of the binocular vision that would likely be more potent in his dromaeosaur predators, as well as even the pterosaurs that might have hunted his kind.
Wait, he's back.
Um,
Here he comes.
and this old
Listed
megalosaurus
again.
reconstruction, yeah, it's listed as a tomatosaurus. So yeah, I'm guessing this guy has been haunting a wide variety of different species of dinosaurs.
Uh, yep.
That's not bad. This seems to be a depiction from maybe the late 1990s. Um, could be early 2000s. They just colored it a specific way.
Hold on, this one's good.
I don't mind the overall muscle structure, except I don't know, the legs I think are a bit bulky. Um, and there's something when it comes to the toes aligning with the ankles or the metatarsal bones, they seem a bit off.
This artist did a good job.
Also, the back of tail seems off. Oh, one of these. Okay, this could be like late 1980s, could be early 1990s. I wonder if maybe this one of Henderson's depictions could be um another illustrator that I'm thinking of. But this is um gosh, where could this be occurring? Oh, okay, over I'm thinking we're still in France. So over in some part of Hungary or Romania, this is a really good representation of the ecosystem. They're probably amongst the coast, though this could be a freshwater area further inland, and just a small herd of tomatosaurs. Probably pretty accurate. I do like their overall gracile or just slender sort of physiques. I think it looks pretty good. They also, or the illustrator gave them a slight bit of an elongated, I guess, osteoderm outline from the back of their skull to the end of their tail. So it looks pretty decent. These animals also would have consisted of several hundred teeth inside of their mouth. So it would have made them some of the most efficient chewers to evolve in all of the archosauromorphs or dinosaurs in general. So probably just feeding on a wide variety of different species of ferns and flowers. So let's head over to the next discovery.
Wait, that was
Oh,
finished?
wait, hold on a second. Unusually high concentration of nests within a single area suggests a vast shared nesting ground, what researchers described as a genuine fossilized reproductive ecosystem. Well, I'm wondering if what's occurring here is that several different species of dinosaurs were using the same nesting platform, or at least nesting area. It's also a bit of a debate as to how different species of dinosaurs would have created their nests. Would they have created large mounds like crocodiles do? Would they have created something more of like a almost like a nest scar, simply where they would have created a bit of a perimeter and just laid their eggs in that specific area. Museum's Facebook announcement, but like sea turtles, has garnered more than 1,500 reactions
Wait a
and
minute, you're
hundred.
saying because sea turtles all lay in the same place?
Well, I was specifically referring to how they make the nest. But yeah, I would well, actually there is evidence for like at least single species of dinosaurs, especially hadrosaurs like Maiasaura over in Montana. And these were discoveries that occurred back in the 1970s and 1980s, creating those specific nest scars in many different areas. I there might have been certain nests that almost represent a mound, but it seems to be that they just laid their eggs in a specific little area. Many commenters expressed awe at the scale and age of the discovery, while others praised museum's scientific work and said the find deserved broader media coverage.
Why is it even in the article?
I don't know. This discovery may be only the beginning. Indian business and find what on earth? Oh, okay. So they reported that more than 100 eggs were visible within weeks once the team reached a fossil rich horizontal layer and noted that the egg bearing layer extends beyond the current trench. Researchers believe the ancient environment helped preserve the nests. Money Control described the region as a river laced floodplain where dinosaurs likely nested in shallow pits covered with vegetation. Periodic flooding then rapidly buried the nests under sediment, sealing delicate eggshells for tens of millions of years. Well, if they happen to lay in a specific floodplain, it's really not surprising that this would have occurred. So that's quite risky to nest in that specific area. Wonder why they decide to um, lay their eggs in that specific region. As for which dinosaurs laid them, initial studies suggest that the eggs belong to different herbivorous species that lived toward the end of the Cretaceous period, between 72 and 70 million years ago, including titanosaurs, whose eggs are distinguished by their round shape. The titanosaurs were a large group of sauropods. The first, if you're referring to Titanosauridae, so the overall different or the large group of sauropods consisted of later different species of titanosauromorphs and several subfamilies. They first evolved somewhere around 170 million years ago during the Middle Jurassic and would thrive until the very end of the Cretaceous around 66 million years ago, as well as Rabdodon priscus. That sounds like a much earlier species of titanosaur. Cabot said the discovery was especially moving because it represents a real fragment of dinosaur life and noted that researchers expect several more years of excavation at the site, which or with much still left to uncover. Yeah, I mean it's a giant mystery. I mean, I'm it's not too surprising that, and especially since there haven't been any discoveries. It sounds like if any other dinosaurs close to the area or major specimens, that, it's really up for question what type of an animal, even in the group, like just specifically a hadrosaur, though in this case seems to be at least sauropods, could have created these nests and the eggs themselves. Okay, let's head over to the next article. So from Sci News, footprints of giant troodontid dinosaur found in China. Paleontologists have discovered the tracks of a 5-meter 16.4-foot long troodontid at the Longxing locality in the Chinese province of Fujian. This is an immense individual, a 16-foot long troodontid. That is rare. I mean, you could say, well, there's that Alaskan troodontid, which is quite large, but this is pushing the records. This animal was likely feeding on not just smaller species of amphibians, reptiles,
Why does it look
maybe
like he's eating a raccoon? Look at
he
his
could be munching on a
look at his
small species of
tail.
mammal. Yeah, that's what it seems to be. I mean, there were a wide variety of different species of small mammals back in late Cretaceous and not just in China. They covered the Earth. And they already covered the Earth back in the Triassic period over 230 million years ago. So at around the time of some of the first dinosaurs. Um, they just were slightly smaller. Mammals didn't reach much more than 30 to 40 pounds back in the Mesozoic era or the time of the dinosaurs. So somewhere between 20 to, well, I'd say maybe 12 to 18 kilograms. And also, a wide variety of them seems were quite carnivorous. The Longcheng track site includes 12 two-toed tracks that fall into two morphologies, differentiated by both size and form. The smaller tracks, around 11 centimeters, 4.3 inches long, belong to the previously known ichnogenus Velociraptor erectus. So this is not specifically Velociraptor. Velociraptor is not a troodontid. It is still a species of Dromaeosaur, but it is its own distinct genus. Velociraptor mongoliensis also inhabited different areas of Mongolia around 80 million years ago. Now,
This guy would be a big for a
well, also this animal towers over Velociraptor. This is like close to the size of I'd say a calibrator, which is also not a species of troodontid, but a species of dromaeosaur that inhabited different parts of Europe around. 100 and not 100. I think a little over 75 million years ago. Wait, kilobit, not 75 million years ago. I think around 90 million years ago. So towards the early Cretaceous. But if you notice with these troodontids, they do not have very large, robust arms compared to their body size, unlike different species of dromaeosaurs or other dromaeosaurs, which, unless you're referring to certain animals such as Ostroraptor, which lived over in Brazil around 90 to 95 million years ago, um, it's a very similar trait to Ostroraptor, but for other dromaeosaurs, they had much longer extended arms that were used to help um, just slice the flesh off of different species of hadrosaurs, smaller individuals of different ceratopsian species. Some might have even preyed on smaller sauropod individuals. They were highly specialized, in some cases, quite adaptable. But troodontids in general tend to be much more lightly built compared to different species of other dromaeosaurs. And when it comes to their feet, for some reason, they only evolved quite small sickle claws compared to their body size. So they're a bit of a mystery. They're an odd group of dromaeosaurs. The larger tracks, up to 36 centimeters or 14.2 inches long, establish a new ichnospecies named Phuyanippus yinglingi. Based on their size, the track maker had an estimated hip height of over 1.8 meters or 5'9", a size comparable to that of the largest known Deinonychosaurs, Ostroraptor and Utahraptor. You could say Ostroraptor was taller and slightly larger than a calibrator, but a calibrator is actually, maybe we should look him up. A much more heavily built species. Ostroraptor is really just, actually, let's look up him too. So Ostroraptor, Austroraptor. And this is actually a really good representation of Ostroraptor. So this animal, as you can tell, it's got a very long and thin, narrow jaw structure, much like that of different species of spinosaurs. Still distinct, but it is similar, at least in that way. And it seems to be mostly a fish eater. In the sediments that it has been discovered in over in Brazil, there are a wide variety of different species of fish. And it seems to be certain aquatic habitats that would have hosted at least the different types of ichnofauna it might have preyed on, or probably did prey on.
I like some of these things people are coming up with.
It also has quite small sickle claws compared to its body size, like the troodontids. Now, this animal was still capable of taking on small species of dinosaurs, or at least the youngsters, and could definitely prey on a person. But it likely just mostly focused on going after different species of fish. Just doesn't seem to have the overall morphology to prey on something like, a young sauropod, a smaller ceratopsian.
Here's a fish.
Yeah, this is a pretty good representation. It's almost like the irritator or the medium-sized spinosaurs of South America. And this specific lineage of dromaeosaur just decided to keep playing their role. And I guess just showing a lot of respect. So, let's look up a kilobator. So Achilobbator. So this individual looked much more closely to animals like Deinonychus, even Dromaeosaurus itself, and essentially you could say it's like a smaller version of Utahraptor, and then you could say Dakotaraptor as well.
What is this?
Beasts of the Mesozoic. I recall that's a toy company. Now this is a painting. Maybe they made an Achillobator. Let's see. I know they made a Smilodon, but besides that, I'm trying to think of what he's feeding on precisely. Is it another? Is it another kilobator? I mean, that's certainly very possible. Maybe it's supposed to represent like a dispute over territory. Yeah, so this animal was definitely capable of hunting the different species of hadrosaurs, ceratopsians it coexisted with, any types of sauropods. Well, at least in the region. Probably not going after extremely large ones, but much larger sickle claw compared to its body size. There's not really any evidence for these animals having feathers that we have discovered at the moment, but due to how closely related they are to a wide variety of different species that did have feathers and how they were built, it is very possible that these animals, or even likely, they had feathers. Also, probably one of the smartest dinosaurs to exist, though larger predators such as the tyrannosaurs were probably about as smart as the different species of dromaeosaurs that they coexisted with as well. Oh, yes. So this one, he's definitely a much more puffy sort of an illustration. I still like it. He has a very robust jaw structure for a dromaeosaur.
He has his winter coat on.
It's very possible that at certain points, even a kilobator might have experienced snow. We do know that different species of dromaeosaurs, such as Dromaeosaurus, would have experienced snow. Different species of troodontids over in different areas of Alaska, Alberta, Canada. It is possible that later um, dromaeosaurs like Dakotaraptor, which coexisted with T Rex, might have experienced cooler weather. But during the time of T Rex, the Earth experienced a bit of a more of a warming sort of a spell compared to a bit earlier in the Cretaceous. So I'm referring to around 68 million years ago, whereas 75 million years ago, there was definitely snow occurring in a wide variety of areas of North America, Eurasia, Antarctica. So, this is a pretty good representation. A bit of a question as to whether or not these animals would have had their arms hunched against their bodies like in this manner.
It looks like tiny wings.
Um, yeah, that's interesting. This illustrator did add a very wing-like feather representation to the overall picture. I mean, it's fine. I think his tail might be a bit thin, but he is a dromaeosaur, so that's not exactly unsurprising. Okay, let's head back to the article. These are just they are related to the troodontids, but they're still quite distantly they're quite distant cousins. When people think of raptor dinosaurs, they most likely think of those in the Jurassic Park movies, human-sized, muscly, aggressive hunters. Well, they would have been aggressive, and depending on the species, they were much larger than humans. Velociraptors, however, were not much bigger than, or didn't weigh much more than 30 pounds or a little over 12 kilograms. They would have had a considerable amount of muscle as well. It's just likely they wouldn't have been naked like a like an alligator or monitor lizard. Say University of Queensland paleontologist Anthony Romilio. But these tracks were left by a much slimmer and brainier group in the family Troodontidae. Well, the term when it comes to Troodontids for decades, they've been referred to as being the smartest dinosaurs to evolve. And it's a bit of a debate as to whether or not these truly were some of the smartest dinosaurs. Also, it would have depended on the individual. But just looking at it as a species itself, they definitely were in the top smartest dinosaurs to exist. It seems that the theropods in general were the smartest. This tends to be the case with carnivores in general. They are smarter than herbivores. Herbivores tend to prioritize aggression a lot more than carnivores.
It's amazing when you taught me that. I had no idea that herbivores are actually as aggressive as they were until you started pointing it out.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting when it comes to how they defend their own kind. There are certain species of plant eaters that are a bit better with coordinating each other, but even then, it's quite basic, and there's not really much of a plan. It's just a simple, okay, surround the calves or just the youngsters, but scare off anything that's in front. But if there's too, much or too intense of a situation, just abandon them. That's which in many cases happens. There are certain individuals, like especially, um, I say just plant eating parents that separated. If you're talking about a herd in general, this might have happened with different species of ceratopsian sauropods. It has been reconstructed in many cases with ceratopsians or the horned dinosaurs like Chasmosaurus and Triceratops to surround their young, like muskox do in the Arctic against wolves. And that is very possible. It would have probably somewhat helped in defense against like different species of tyrannosaurs and even dromaeosaurs, possibly even certain robust pterosaurs in some instances. So let's see. This raptor was around 5 meters long or pushing somewhere around 16 feet with 1.8-meter long legs, far exceeding the size of the raptors depicted in Jurassic Park. Imagine something like that coming at you at full speed. Um, yeah, this is definitely much larger than the over exaggerated velociraptors, but technically the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, they were completely different from a velociraptor in many ways. The skull structure was a bit more like that of a Deinonychus because the Deinonychus was the raptor that those velociraptors in Jurassic Park were based off of. It was literally at the exact same time that the model for the velociraptors came out that they discovered the largest raptor to exist, Utah raptor. The tracks were compared with other known two-toed dinosaur tracks from across Asia, North and South America, and Europe. Oh yeah, there are dromaeosaurs that occur in South America. They're just not very common. I mean, dromaeosaurs were nearly everywhere. I don't recall them, however, in Australia. There were megaraptors, which are close relatives of the dromaeosaurs, but not specifically dromaeosaurs themselves. Yep, there is a two-toed incident. Wow, that is very distinct. It's been a bit of a drag. Wonder what that's about. No, that's another one. I guess the other foot. Yep. Hmm. Like a youngster? Maybe just a better foot setting? Doesn't seem to be showing barely any toe, like any claw marks. We found this track type is distinct in shape, making it quite unique. The concept of large troodontids has only recently emerged in the paleontological community. Well, only recently is a relative term. I'd say somewhere in the past 15 to 20 years. Now, with these types of footprints, no, this is very recent. Bones discovered in Alaska hint at a trend toward gigantism near the ancient Arctic Circle, an area with potentially less species competition due to extended periods of winter darkness. Maybe, but it seems that what we find over in the Prince Creek Formation over in Alaska, there have been a wide variety of different predators discovered there. Dromaeosaurus, this large Alaskan troodontid, so at least over 13 feet in length, they're pushing 4 meters, over 4 meters. Let's see who else. The Tyrannosaur gorgosaurus. So you had at least three different species of carnivores competing with each other. Now, probably the dromaeosaurs weren't much of a threat to the gorgosaurus. Not that like 6 or 7, let's say what 40 to 50 pound or 20 kilogram dromaeosaurs would necessarily be an easy pushover for a gorgosaurus, but we're talking about a 2.5 ton tyrannosaur, so likely not worth a fight. But our findings suggest these raptor giants roamed much further south and were more widely dispersed. Well, we're referring to a discovery, however, over in China. However, there's much further south than Alaska and is going to be experiencing much milder weather. So that is true. Interestingly, some of our research team has also worked on the world's tiniest dinosaur footprints, raptor tracks in South Korea that are just 1 centimeter long, or I guess about a half an inch. Oh, maybe a little more than half an inch. But I'm not familiar with these dromaeosaur tracks over in Korea. In fact, I hadn't even heard that there were raptor tracks found in South Korea. So this is good to hear, considering not a lot comes from Korea. Certain recent dinosaurs, especially different species of hadrosaurs and ceratopsians, smaller ceratopsians, have popped up. It just goes to show the incredible size range among raptor dinosaurs, highlighting their adaptability and ecological diversity. Well, it's just very surprising for the troodontids, which probably indicates there were more large troodontid species. And I'm guessing these animals were probably going after younger dinosaur individuals and not just focusing on smaller amphibians and reptiles and maybe even mammals like what the smaller species tend to be portrayed as hunting. Since troodontids in general were not much more than 6 feet in length, they're pushing 2 meters and maybe didn't weigh much more than 25 to 30 pounds, or a little over 10 to 12 kilograms. So let's head over to the third article. So from discovermagazine.com, dinosaur hatchery with 92 nests and over 250 eggs uncovered in India. The recent findings suggest the Titanosaur, one of the largest dinosaurs in the world, may have close ties with modern day crocodiles and birds. Well, the Titanosaur is a relative term. It's just that's just mentioning a large group of sauropod dinosaurs.
Oh, I thought Titanosaur was its own.
Well, there's the Titanosaurus,
Oh,
which did exist back in the Cretaceous period. We're talking about a species of sauropod that's over 80 feet in length or pushing well over 25 meters. But Titanosaur itself, it's kind of like saying Tyrannosaur or Stegosaur. It's just referencing the whole family in general. Or, I want to. There, oh, there's the scroll. Okay. The discovery of 92 nesting sites with a total of 256 fossilized dinosaur eggs is an incredible feat in and of itself. But the nests and eggs are helping researchers better understand one of the largest dinosaurs that once roamed across India. Titanosaur nests tend to be much more abundant over in areas like Argentina and Chile, just Patagonia overall in southern South America, and really over in the early late Cretaceous period. I believe that there are certain nesting sites that occurred further back into the early Cretaceous, but many are associated with the early Cretaceous, so early late Cretaceous, so around 90 to 100 million years ago. And not so much in between like 66 and 95 million years ago. Mainly because the sauropod variety, for some reason, ended up diminishing quite abruptly, like within the span of a couple million years. And it's for some reason they ended up just disappearing from much of the earth. They still survived, but in smaller families, in smaller sizes too. They would eventually increase in size in certain species. According to a recent study from the University of Delhi, India, published in Plus One, a team of paleontologists uncovered the nesting sites in the Lamita Formation, an area of the Narmada Valley in central India, and a hotbed for dinosaur fossils, especially from the late Cretaceous period. If this is what I am thinking, this specific area and the formation itself is in India, I think what's that, central India. I think I might be I'm thinking of the northwestern part of the country, kind of associated with Pakistan. There could be different species of abelisaurs as well as other titanosaur sauropods, especially I think members of Lithostratia, that have been discovered here as well. The eggs and nests belong to one of the largest dinosaurs ever to live, the titanosaurs. The sauropod, long-necked herbivore, had a stockier frame and a wider stance than other typical sauropods. Well, that would depend on the species of titanosaur itself, or the group in general too. And Um, there were a number of different species of, or families of sauropods that would have a bit of a stocky frame. I'd say the diplodocids are more renowned for being much more lightly built. Animals or sauropods like the brachiosaurs, in certain ways, are much more heavily built. I guess you could say somewhat stocky. Um, though there were certain diplodocids you could say that weren't necessarily lightly built, such as the Brontosaurus and the Apatosaurus were actually quite stocky to an extent. Maybe not to the same extent as certain depictions back in the early 1900s or even the 1960s and 1970s, but still very bulky. And then certain titanosaurs, especially as you proceeded in size to an extent. Argentinosaurus was somewhat overall just seemed to match in overall musculature. So, thanks to the recent findings, paleontologists can peer into the past and learn more about the nesting habits of the titanosaurs. Well, it also helps that ti- there have been more eggs or nesting sites discovered by titanosaurs than other groups of sauropods, probably than any other group combined. That's a very well intact Titanosaur egg specimen. That looks really good. I'm not sure if it mentioned when these specific dinosaur or these specific Titanosaur eggs are supposed to take place. It said the late Cretaceous, but that could mean anywhere between 66 and 100 million years ago. So we could be looking at, though it did say it mentioned Lamina Formation, India, so it could be a bit later into the Cretaceous or somewhere around 70 million years ago. So maybe mid Maastrichtian stage. Hmm. Together with dinosaur nests from Habilpur in the upper Narmada Valley in the east and those from Balasiner in the west, the new nesting sites from Dar district in Madhya Pradesh, central India. Oh, okay. I tend to be, when it comes to the states, thinking of like different populations of tigers, elephants from this area, covering an east-west stretch of 1,000 kilometers or about 600 miles. Constitute one of the largest dinosaur hatcheries in the world, says co-author and research team leader Guntu Palai VR Prasad in a press release. After analyzing the nests, the study authors identified six different species of titanosaur eggs. Whoa, indicating that there may have been a wider variety of titanosaurs in the area than previously thought based on fossil records. Well, that's really good to hear. So this is referring to an area that was very high in titanosaur variety. I was assuming it was just going to be a single species if they had come up with a certain analysis for the specific animals. According to the study, the nest layout indicates that the titanosaurs may have laid its eggs in shallow pits, then buried them as modern day crocodiles do. However, there was also evidence of the egg in egg phenomenon called counter peristalsis contraction, a condition seen in chickens where the formed egg retracts into a hen's oviduct, only to have the second egg form around it then. The nests also indicate that the titanosaur may have had a similar physiology to modern birds, where they sequentially laid their eggs. The close nesting proximity of these dinosaurs is similar to modern day birds like great egrets, cormorants, and brown pelicans. I'm guessing what it's referring to is the different species nesting amongst each other. The researchers also noted that due to the close proximity of the nests, the adult titanosaurs may have left the hatchlings to fend for themselves. I think this is due to the fact that depending on how large of a species of sauropod in general that we're referring to, that would make sense considering a 40-ton animal has to herbivore. also has to eat consistently, and also somewhere around at least what uh somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of food each day, or possibly somewhere between 600 to 1,000 kilograms. And it could be a wide variety of ferns, but probably focusing on a wide variety of different species of conifers in the area. Even flowers not really being much of a food source. Not that they didn't exist in the area, especially since we're referring to the late Cretaceous, but it just didn't make up a huge part of their diet. Let's see. Though there are different fossil trackways of younger titanosaurs. Well, I'm not sure. I don't remember if they were titanosaurs or different diplodocid species. It might have been diplodocids roaming with the adults. But this is once the youngsters already hit like the size of an elephant. They're pushing well over 4 tons. And that could take a few years. Our research has revealed the presence of an extensive hatchery of Titanosaur sauropod dinosaurs in the study area and offers new insights into the conditions of nest preservation and reproductive strategies of Titanosaur sauropod dinosaurs just before they went extinct, says Harsha Diamond, lead author of the study, in a press release. It's unfortunate that they didn't mention these different species of dinosaurs that existed in this specific area, but I could just take a look. I mean, I'll take a look into the formation to see what specific titanosaurs would have occurred here, and if it's not in, I think they said the Alameda Formation. There's likely other formations in the area that could indicate or would help indicate that or other specific titanosaurs that would have laid the eggs, and as well the certain predators that would have hunted them too. So we might discuss that on also just simply a different topic in a later episode. So thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Happy International Ice Age Month and happy International Sauropod Day. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.